The night was quiet in the village of Endeliba, the kind of quiet that felt heavy, like the air was holding its breath. The moon hung low and wide, a pale drum in the sky. Far in the distance, the drums from another village rose and fell like whispers travelling on the warm African wind. Fires burned in small circles across the homesteads, spreading orange light over the brown earth. Goats shifted in sleep. Owls called from the old Iroko tree. And in one lonely hut near the riverbank, a woman sat alone, staring at the torn pieces of her past. Her name was Amara, once known in the village as the woman with the brightest laugh. But that laugh had died the day her husband, Kato, left her for another woman, left her with shame, left her with whispers following her like smoke, and left her with a heart that felt older than the mountains. For weeks after the divorce, Amara moved like a ghost. People called her name she did not hear, children greeted her she did not see, the sun rose and fell but she only felt a long night inside her. And when Kato stood proudly in the village square laughing with his mistress, Naledi, her silence became even heavier. They acted as if she did not exist, as if years of marriage were only dust they could wipe away. So one morning, with a heart full of fire but a face calm like river stones, Amara walked to the old tree where the villagers kept the wooden box of marriage papers and promises. She dropped her old wedding bracelet inside. Then she walked straight to the small market where Kato kept the joint credit cards and savings tokens hidden in a clay pot. She took them all. And she cancelled everything. Every card, every account, every coin access. She cut her past with the clean, sharp edge of decision. Some said she was crazy. Others whispered that she was bold. But the village elders watched her with old, knowing eyes, because they sensed something ancient stirring around her like the first rumble before a storm. Yet Amara did not know this. She only felt a strange wind around her whenever she walked. A wind that carried the faint smell of rain even on dry days. A wind that made the leaves bow in her direction. A wind that felt as if someone or something was following her. One evening, as the sun melted into gold behind the hills, Amara sat by the river where the water always whispered old secrets. She watched the smooth surface. She listened to frogs croak in the reeds. She felt the sand cool under her bare feet. This river had seen her childhood. It had seen her courtship. It had seen her wedding day when she and Kato danced under lanterns while drums filled the night. It had seen her tears too. But today it saw something different. A shadow. It was faint, almost soft, but it stretched across the water behind her though no one stood there. Amara's breath caught. She turned quickly. No one. Only tall reeds shaking in the wind. But the shadow remained in the water for a moment longer before it dissolved like smoke. Amara shivered. The river had always been calm. It did not play tricks. She rose to her feet slowly. "Who is there?" she whispered. The wind answered. It blew gently at first, then stronger, swirling the reeds and making them hiss. Amara wrapped her arms around herself as goosebumps crawled up her arms. The air felt thick, charged with something she could not name. And then she heard it, a whisper. Her name. Not loud, not sharp, but long stretched, like a voice older than time. Amara. Her knees trembled. She turned in every direction, but the riverbank was empty. The whisper came again, softer this time, as if floating from a place between the worlds. Amara, prepare your heart. Her breath grew thin. Prepare her heart for what? Suddenly the wind died completely. Silence fell so suddenly she felt it press against her ears. The river stopped singing. The frogs stopped croaking. Even the insects held their breath. The world seemed to freeze. And then the reeds parted. Something stepped out. But it was not a person. Not flesh and bone. Not spirit either. It was a shape, human-like but woven from mist and moonlight. Its edges flickered like fire. Its chest glowed with a pale blue light. Its eyes were empty yet full of light at the same time. It moved without sound, without weight, sliding toward her as if riding on the wind. Amara staggered backward. Her heart hammered like a drum of war. The air smelled of ancient rain. The shape raised one hand, its long fingers stretched like branches. A cold wind rolled over her skin. The glow in its chest pulsed once like a heartbeat. Then its voice rose not from its mouth, but from the air around her. Child of earth, child of courage, your path is not finished. Amara's mouth fell open. What are you? She whispered. The shape tilted its head slightly, as if confused by the question, then answered. I am the one who walks between. I am the echo of the ancestors. I am the breath of forgotten stories. And I come because the drum of your destiny has begun to beat. Amara felt her fear bend into something else, something like wonder. The shape floated closer. When a woman breaks her chains, it said, the spirits listen. When she lifts her head after being pushed down, the earth shakes its dust. When she refuses to be made small, the ancestors rise. Amara swallowed. I do not understand, she whispered. You will, the spirit said. But know this, Amara of Endeliba, your story is not ending, it is beginning. Before she could speak, the spirit looked toward the village, far beyond the trees and rooftops where distant drums were starting up again. The glow in its chest dimmed. Your past has awakened something dangerous, it murmured. Something that hides behind smiles and dances in the shadows of hearts. Be watchful, child. Amara felt cold. Dangerous. What danger? The spirit began to fade, its edges dissolving like smoke in sunlight. Wait, Amara cried, tell me more. But the spirit was already turning into mist. Only its voice remained, echoing one last time across the river. When the drums beat on the night of betrayal, speak only one sentence. It will shake kingdoms. Then the mist disappeared. The river returned to life. Insects hummed, frogs croaked, the breeze whispered again. Amara dropped to her knees. She could barely breathe. One sentence. On the night of betrayal. Shake kingdoms. Her heart pounded as she watched the last bits of glowing mist fade into the night air. She hugged herself tight as she rose. Something inside her chest shifted, like a heavy stone turning over. She felt both afraid and strangely powerful. She did not know what would come, but the spirits had never lied in her village. If they said something was rising, then something was indeed rising. That night she walked back through the village slowly. People greeted her, but she answered without hearing. The elders watching the stars raised their brows when she passed. The wind around her carried a presence they recognized. Firelight danced on her skin, giving her a faint glow like one touched by something not of this world. Amara entered her hut and sat on the woven mat. She listened to the soft crackle of the small fire. She placed her hand on her chest, feeling her heartbeat still racing. The spirit's words rang in her ears. One sentence will shake kingdoms. Who would hear this sentence? Kato. His mistress. The village. Or something far greater. She wanted to rest, but sleep did not come. She lay awake until dawn, thinking of shadows on water, glowing chests, voices older than the world, and a coming danger she did not understand. By morning, word had already spread around the village. Kato and his mistress had set a wedding date. A grand wedding. Drums, dances, feast. Even travelers from other villages would attend. People whispered about Amara, some pitied her, some watched her carefully, wondering if the spirits were truly moving around her. But Amara said nothing. She only looked toward the mountains where the sunrise glowed red as fire, and she felt the spirits' words echo again deep inside her bones. The night of betrayal was coming. And somewhere inside her, a sentence waited. Waiting like a hidden blade. She did not know the words yet. But she knew. When that night arrived, the world would not remain the same. The morning sun rose over Endeliba with a heat that felt heavy and sharp, as if the sky itself wanted to warn the village. The soil steamed, the goats wandered lazily, and the palm leaves hung low in the air that refused to move. People gathered at the marketplace early, their voices full of excitement, gossip and whispers. The news of Kato's coming wedding was everywhere, on lips, in murmurs, and in the glances thrown toward Amara. Amara walked through the market with a basket of dried cassava on her head. Her steps were steady, but inside her heart. The river of fear and mystery still flowed. The memory of the glowing spirit from the night before clung to her skin like morning dew. Every sound she heard, the rustle of leaves, the cry of birds, felt sharper, stronger, almost as if the world itself was listening to her. As she passed a group of women grinding maize, they lowered their voices. One of them, Mama Kand, whispered loud enough for Amara to hear. Spirits follow her now, you see how the wind moves behind her, that is not normal wind. Another replied, a woman cannot cancel all accounts and walk away from her husband like she is a queen. Something will follow her. Amara kept walking, pretending not to hear, though their words pressed on her heart. She stopped at a stall where a young boy sold palm oil. 2 gourds, she said softly. The boy looked at her with wide, curious eyes. My mother says your shadow moves before you move, he whispered nervously. Amara forced a smile. Shadows play tricks in this sun. But the boy shook his head. Not like yours. She paid and left quickly. As she moved deeper into the market, she felt the wind again, gentle, circling her ankles like a cat. A strange chill followed it, though the heat of the day was rising. She paused under the shade of a marula tree. The leaves above rustled, though no breeze was blowing anywhere else. It felt familiar. It felt like the river night. But the spirit did not appear again. Instead, an old man approached her. Elder Buru, the oldest storyteller in Endeliba. His beard was silver like moonlight, and his eyes held the entire history of the land. He carried a carved walking stick shaped like a twisted snake. He stopped in front of her. Amara, he said, his voice soft but heavy with meaning. She bowed her head. Elder. You have been touched, he said, studying her face. Something of the old world has breathed upon you. Her hands trembled slightly. I did not call it, it came. It comes only to those who have broken and rebuilt themselves, Elder Buru said. The ancestors watch you, and where ancestors watch, danger walks behind. Amara swallowed. It said danger is coming, but I do not know from where. The elder tapped his walking stick on the ground 3 times. The sound echoed deeper than expected, almost like thunder. Danger always comes from the direction you do not look, he said. Do not fear what waits in the shadows. Fear what walks in daylight wearing smiles. Amara felt a cold shiver run down her spine. You speak of people, she asked softly. People, the elder said, can be more dangerous than spirits. Before she could ask more, a group of villagers approached Elder Buru, calling him to settle a dispute. He nodded at her once before leaving. Amara stood alone under the tree, heart pounding. People can be more dangerous than spirits. Her thoughts drifted to Kato. To Naledi. To the strange way they smiled when they walked through the village hand in hand, as if the world was theirs. As if they had won. As if she was only a forgotten story. But then she remembered the spirit's warning. Something dangerous hides behind smiles. Amara left the market and followed a dirt path toward the riverlands. It was a long walk, passing tall grass that brushed against her legs, termite mounds rising like towers, and birds bursting from bushes with bright wings. The sun shimmered over the wide savanna stretching beyond the village. Far away, mountains slept under a thin veil of mist. She reached the river, the same place where the spirit had appeared. The water glittered in the sunlight, moving slowly, carrying the cool breath of the mountain springs. Amara dipped her feet into the water and closed her eyes. What danger, she whispered. What does the spirit want me to see? The river answered with silence. But the air did not. The wind blew stronger, swirling the tall reeds. A faint hum rose around her like the sound of faraway drums. Then the water rippled in strange patterns, moving against the current. Amara stepped back as the surface shimmered like glass. A reflection appeared. But it was not her reflection. It was the face of a woman. Beautiful, dark-skinned, eyes bright like stars, neck long like the stories of river maidens, hair woven with beads that shimmered even in the sun. Amara gasped. The reflection smiled, but the mouth did not move in Amara's shape. Then the woman spoke, her voice coming from beneath the water. You are watched, daughter. Amara stumbled backward, falling on the sand. The river spirit, one of the ancient guardians, had shown herself. Amara felt her mouth go dry, watched by who? Kato Naledi. The spirit's eyes darkened. You look too small, look bigger. Amara blinked. I do not understand. The river spirit pointed her chin toward the village. Look at them, she said. Look with the eyes of your ancestors. Amara stared at the village rooftops far in the distance. And suddenly, a shadow covered the village in her vision. Not a normal shadow. A dark cloud, heavy, shaped like a crouching beast. Its teeth were long. Its eyes glowed red. It hovered above the place where Kato lived, its claws stretched toward the wedding preparations. Amara's heart slammed against her ribs. The river spirit's voice turned soft but cold. The danger is hungry. Amara shook her head violently. What danger is this? Why me? The river spirit's gaze softened. Because you are not the one who lost, you are the one chosen. Amara felt hot tears in her eyes. Chosen for what? The river spirit sank slowly into the water, her voice echoing as she disappeared. For the night when one sentence will break open the truth. Amara's breath came slow and shaky. She clutched her arms, trying to steady herself. The heat, the visions, the spirits. Her heart felt too small for everything happening. She stayed by the water until the sun began sinking. Her mind raced. She thought of her marriage, the lies, the betrayal. The days Kato returned home late smelling of foreign perfume. The pity in people's eyes when she walked by. The shame she carried, the pain she buried deep. But the spirits were pulling these memories back to life. Why? She walked home in silence. The sky turned a deep orange, then purple, then blue. Night birds flew overhead. The first stars appeared. And somewhere deeper in the forest a drum began beating in slow, steady rhythms. Dums, dums, dum. Her heart followed the rhythms. She reached her hut. Inside she lit a small oil lamp. Shadows danced on the clay walls. She sat on her mat and let her thoughts continue spinning. Late that night as the village slept, she heard footsteps outside her hut. Slow, soft, careful. She froze. The footsteps stopped at her door. She heard whispering, multiple voices, then silence. She moved quietly to the door and pressed her ear against it. Nothing. She slowly opened the door. The outside was empty except for a small woven basket placed on the ground. A wedding token. But this was no gift. It was a sign. A sign used by the villagers when someone was no longer welcome at a ceremony. Someone had told her, "Do not come. Do not stand near Kato's wedding. Do not show your face." Shame clung to her chest like a hand squeezing her lungs. She knelt beside the basket and touched the woven edge. As soon as her fingers brushed it, the wind blew hard, so hard the lantern inside her hut flickered. The basket flipped over by itself, revealing what was under it. A single bone. A white bone, smooth and polished, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Her breath stopped. This was not a wedding token. This was a warning from deeper forces. A bone left at a doorstep meant one thing in Endeliba. Someone wants to silence you. The wind howled suddenly. The shadows thickened. A drumbeat echoed from the forest. Amara's eyes widened with fear. Something was coming. Something tied to the wedding. Something tied to betrayal. And something tied to the one sentence she had not yet discovered. Her hands trembled as she picked up the glowing bone. The moment her fingers closed around it, she froze. Because a voice whispered right behind her ear. A voice she knew. A voice she never thought she would hear again. "Amara, do not speak at the wedding." She spun around. But no one was there. Only the darkness stretching long and deep. She dropped the bone, heart racing. If someone wanted to silence her, it meant her words had power. Power she did not yet understand. Power that spirits feared. Power that people feared. Power that could destroy a wedding, a marriage, or maybe something far bigger. Amara stepped back into her hut, closed the door and leaned against it. She whispered to herself, "What is the sentence the spirits want me to speak?" Outside, the night grew darker, thicker, charged with secrets. The wedding was coming. And so was the danger. The next morning came with a strange quiet. The sky was pale, washed almost white, and the birds refused to sing. Even the goats walked without sound, as if something in the air told them not to disturb whatever was watching them from the unseen world. Amara woke before dawn. She had slept only in pieces, waking again and again to the sound of distant drums, moving shadows, and the heavy silence that seemed to sit upon the roof of her hut. The bone outside her door still lay on the mat, glowing faintly like cold fire. She had not touched it again after dropping it the night before. Now she stared at it with a mix of fear and curiosity. In Endeliba, bones were used by elders, hunters, and spirit walkers. They told stories, warnings, or messages from the dead. But this bone was too smooth, too bright, too alive. Something was inside it. Amara felt it. She stepped outside into the cool morning air, wrapping her shawl around her shoulders. The village was waking up. Women swept the ground, men sharpened hoes. Children chased chickens, but everywhere she walked, eyes followed her. Not with pity this time. With fear. Some villagers moved aside when she passed, as if the wind around her could burn them. She wanted to tell them she was the same Amara, the same woman who once laughed under the mango trees, but she could not find words. She felt different inside. Not stronger, not weaker. Just watched. As she walked toward Elder Buru's hut, she heard a whisper from two young girls by the well. She must not go to the wedding, the spirits will follow her. I heard she speaks to shadows. I heard shadows speak back. Amara kept walking, her heart tightening. She reached Elder Buru's compound. Smoke rose from a small fire outside, carrying the smell of burnt herbs, protection herbs. Chickens pecked near the entrance. The elder sat on a low stool, polishing his walking stick. When he saw her, his face grew serious. Child, he said, I expected you. Amara knelt before him. Elder, someone left a bone at my door. He nodded slowly. Show me. She unwrapped the cloth she had carried. The bone lay inside it, glowing softly in the morning light. Elder Buru's eyes widened. This is not a human bone, he whispered. Amara swallowed. Then what is it? The elder reached carefully and touched it with one finger. The ground vibrated beneath them. Birds in the trees scattered, crying into the sky. Even the fire flickered wildly. Elder Buru pulled his hand back quickly. This is a spirit bone, he said, left by someone who walks with both feet in the living world and one foot in the dead. Amara felt her stomach twist. Who would send this to me, and why? The elder's eyes darkened like storm clouds. To silence you. But why? What have I done? He leaned forward. It is not what you have done, it is what you will say. Amara felt a cold breeze brush the back of her neck. The spirit from the river told me that one sentence will reveal everything. Elder Buru nodded. Yes, a single sentence can open a hidden truth. But I don't even know the sentence, she cried. You will, he said, when the moment comes. Amara looked down at the bones. It warns me not to speak at the wedding. Someone is afraid of my voice. The elder tapped his walking stick on the ground again. Then your voice is powerful. Amara shook her head. I am only a woman, a divorced woman, a woman thrown away. He raised one eyebrow. Even a thrown-away stone can break a crown. Amara froze. What do you know, elder? He sighed. More than you want, less than you need. She felt frustration, fear, and curiosity swirl inside her. Before she could ask more, a loud sound echoed across the village. Drums. Fast, sharp drums, announcement drums. People began running toward the central square, shouting. Kato has something to say. Amara felt her chest tighten. She joined the crowd gathering beneath the giant baobab tree. Kato stood in the center with Naledi beside him. Naledi's smile glimmered like polished stones, but her eyes were cold. Kato held a long staff decorated with feathers, symbol of a man about to join families in marriage. He raised his voice. People of Endaliba, our wedding will be held in 3 days. The spirits have blessed our union. Some villagers cheered, others clapped. Amara stood quietly at the back. Then Kato said something that made the wind pause. And let it be known, no divorced woman connected to my past shall step into the wedding circle. The spirits will reject her. Gasps rose around the crowd. Some people glanced at Amara. Naledi smirked. Kato continued, let everyone respect this. Anyone who breaks this rule will face the wrath of the ancestors. Amara felt heat burn inside her chest, not anger but something deeper, something the spirits had placed there. Then Naledi spoke. Amara should stay far away. We do not want her shadow to bring shame. The villagers murmured. The drumbeat stopped. Silence spread. Amara stepped forward without meaning to. Her feet moved on their own, as if pulled by an invisible force. All eyes turned to her. Kato's face tensed, Naledi's smile faded. Amara stopped a few steps away from the crowd. She did not scream, she did not cry, she simply spoke. I have no desire to walk into your wedding circle, but the spirits who watched my marriage, they are awake. Gasps again. Naledi hissed, do not bring spirits into this. But Amara looked straight at Kato. When you left me, she said, her voice steady, something followed you. Kato's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked away for a moment, then returned. You should not speak, Amara, he said sharply. The elders have rules for divorced women. Before Amara could respond, a gust of wind ripped through the square, scattering dust, bending the tree branches and sending villagers stepping backward. The wind circled around Amara. Whirling, humming. People whispered, the spirits, the spirits. Naledi grabbed Kato's arm. Kato stared at the wind, as if seeing something he could not understand. The wind stopped suddenly. Amara stood still, her hair lifting slightly, her shawl fluttering. Kato's eyes narrowed. Do not bring madness to my wedding. Amara whispered back, your wedding already carries madness. Kato stepped forward angrily, keep quiet. Elder Buru appeared beside Amara, holding his staff high. Enough, the girl is guided by forces older than your anger. Kato scoffed, old man, do not fill her head with ghost stories. But Elder Buru's voice grew deeper. When ancestors move, even kings kneel. The villagers murmured, some nodded, others looked frightened. Suddenly Naledi let out a small cry. Everyone turned. She was holding her stomach, her face had gone pale. What is wrong? Kato asked, grabbing her arm. Naledi shook her head weakly. I feel something cold. Elder Buru looked at Amara, then at the glowing bone still tucked in her cloth. A shadow was sent, he whispered. Amara felt her heart squeeze. The elder continued, and a shadow does not come unless someone invited it. Kato panicked, Naledi, what did you do? Naledi trembled. I only wanted the wedding to go smoothly, so I went to the forest woman, she gave me something, she said it would protect our marriage. Elder Buru slammed his staff down. Forest woman, you went to her, you touched forbidden magic. Naledi's lips shook. I just wanted Amara's voice removed. The elder closed his eyes in pain. Then you have called something you cannot control. Kato stared at Naledi in shock. You brought a curse onto us. Naledi fell to her knees. Villagers backed away. Some made the sign of protection. Amara felt her skin turn cold. The shadow she saw over the village. It came from Naledi. And now it was waking. Naledi looked up at Amara, tears in her eyes. The forest woman said, if your voice was silenced, my marriage would be strong. I took the bone to your door. Amara stepped back slowly. The bone, the warning, the silence, all from Naledi. Elder Buru spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. The forest woman gave you a spirit bone from the dark side. It does not silence, it binds, it traps, it feeds. Naledi screamed, it is inside me, I feel it moving. Kato grabbed her, terrified. The crowd scattered in fear. Amara stood frozen. Elder Buru turned to her, you must go to the Mountain of Echoes. Amara blinked, why? To discover the sentence, he said. Only that sentence can break what Naledi has awakened. Amara's heart thudded hard. The spirits want you to witness the truth before the wedding day. Only then will you speak the words that end everything. The elder leaned close. You must go before sunset. Amara looked toward the distant mountains. Mist swirled around them. The Mountain of Echoes. A place people feared. A place where the living hear the dead. Amara felt fear brush her spine. But the spirits had chosen her path. And the wedding was in 3 days. 3 days before the curse became full. 3 days before she spoke the sentence. She took a deep breath, gathered her shawl and whispered, Then I will go. Elder Buru nodded solemnly, May the ancestors walk with you. Amara left the village behind as the sun climbed higher. The wind followed her. The bone glowed faintly in her cloth. The mountains waited ahead, silent and ancient. Her journey had begun. Amara walked away from Endeliba with the soft earth shifting beneath her feet. The sun rose high behind her, casting her shadow long before her on the narrow path. The wind moved quietly, brushing the tall savanna grass as if trying to guide her steps. She carried a small gourd of water, a piece of roasted yam, and the glowing spirit bone wrapped in cloth. The mountains stood far ahead, blue and misty like they were floating. The Mountain of Echoes was the highest among them, shaped like a giant drum. It was said that when the wind hit its sides, the mountain spoke. She walked past wide riverlands, dry termite towers, and golden plains. Birds with red wings flew above her. Dust rose behind her feet. But the deeper she travelled, the heavier the air became. It felt like invisible fingers touched her shoulders, urging her to turn back. But she did not stop. The spirits had called her. And something inside her, something that had slept for years, now woke with every step she took. Her mind went back to Naledi's confession. "I wanted your voice removed." That single sentence had changed everything. Amara had lived thinking she was weak, that her voice had no power, but the spirits, the elders, even the forest woman, they knew something she did not. Her voice mattered. That idea scared her more than the curse itself. She walked for hours until she reached the edge of the shadow forest. The trees here were tall and old, their roots twisting like snakes over the ground. The forest floor was dark, even though the afternoon sun still burned outside. Strange flowers grew between the roots, glowing faintly. Amara stood at the entrance, her heart beating fast. Inside this forest lived the forest woman, the one Naledi had gone to. Villagers feared her. She lived between life and death, between shadow and sunlight. People said she spoke to bones, to roots, to spirits that slept under the ground. Amara whispered to herself, "If Naledi went to her, maybe I must pass through her path too." The wind answered with a low hum. She stepped into the forest. The air grew cool immediately, filled with the smell of old earth and distant rain. The deeper she walked, the quieter everything became. No birds sang here, no insects buzzed. Even her own footsteps sounded softer, as if the forest absorbed each sound. Suddenly, a whisper drifted through the trees. "Amara, child of broken vows." Amara froze. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere. "Why do you walk in the land of shadows?" Her throat tightened. I seek the sentence that will reveal the truth." The voice hummed, "Truth is heavy, heavier than betrayal." Amara clenched her fingers around the cloth-wrapped bone. "I must find it." The trees rustled. A low chuckle echoed through the forest, cold and deep. "Then keep walking." Amara moved slowly, her heart pounding. The forest grew darker. Vines hung low and branches reached out like hands trying to touch her. Her breath became short. Fear crawled up her spine. Then she saw it, a small hut made of branches, mud and bones. Smoke curled from a hole in the roof. Strange charms hung from the doorway. Feathers, stones, teeth, tiny skulls. A woman stepped out. Tall, thin, eyes dark like night pools. Skin the color of burnt earth. Hair braided with beads and bones. She smiled, showing teeth too sharp to be normal. "I have been waiting for you." Amara stumbled back. You are the forest woman." The woman nodded slowly. "Naledi came to me, but she paid with fear, not wisdom. You come with something else." "I did not come to seek a curse," Amara whispered. The woman tilted her head. "You came to seek truth, that is more dangerous." Amara swallowed. "Naledi wanted my voice removed." "Yes," the forest woman said, stepping closer. "But the magic she asked for was not meant for silence. It was meant for revelation." Amara gasped. "She said it was to silence me." The forest woman shook her head slowly. "Foolish girl, she never understood my words. She wanted protection for her marriage, so she tried to bind your voice. But the spirit bone she took is a bone of awakening." She raised one hand and touched Amara's forehead lightly. Heat burned through Amara's skin. "You were chosen long before Kato left you," the woman whispered. "Your destiny is older than marriage, older than betrayal, older than pain." Amara felt tears rise in her eyes. "Why me? I am no queen, no elder, no warrior." The forest woman smiled gently. "You are a mirror, and mirrors show what people hide." Amara breathed shakily. "Kato, Naledi, what have they hidden?" The forest woman stepped back, her eyes glowing faintly. "Kato does not love Naledi," she said simply. "He does not love you either, he loves something else." Amara froze. "What does he love?" The woman whispered, "Power." The forest shook. Trees trembled. Wind roared through the branches. Power, Amara whispered. Kato is only a man. No, the forest woman said. He is a man hungry for a throne. Amara's heart slammed inside her chest. Kato wants the chiefdom, she whispered. The forest woman nodded. He has made promises he cannot keep. He has lied to elders. He has done rituals not meant for human hands, and Naledi, she was his shield, not his love. Amara covered her mouth. This is why the spirits watch him. More than watch, the woman said. They wait. Amara took a shaky breath. And the wedding? The wedding seals a pact he made, the forest woman said. If it happens, Endaliba will suffer. Amara felt her legs weaken. Then I must stop it. The forest woman stepped forward and placed her hand on Amara's chest. You cannot stop the wedding with force. You cannot stop it with anger. You cannot stop it with tears. Only one thing stops it. Amara whispered the sentence. The forest woman nodded. Amara felt fear swirl in her stomach. Tell me the sentence. The forest woman shook her head. I cannot. The sentence must be discovered, not given. Amara's hands shook. How do I find it? You must go to the Mountain of Echoes, she said. Climb to the place where the wind speaks. Call the ancestors. They will show you what Kato has hidden. Amara nodded slowly, her fear turning into determination. The forest woman stepped back toward her hut. Before you go, she said, take this. She held out her hand. A small clay bowl floated from inside the hut and into her palm. Inside the bowl rested a dark paste that shimmered like moonlight on water. What is it? Amara asked. A mixture of ash, truthroot and river tears, the forest woman said. When you reach the mountain top, mark your forehead with this. It will open your ears to what the mountain whispers. Amara reached for it, but the woman held her hand back. Listen carefully, the forest woman said, her voice darkening. When the ancestors show you the truth, you must not run, you must not cry, you must not close your eyes. Amara swallowed. I will hold strong. The woman's eyes softened for a moment. You have suffered much, child, but your suffering is the fire that shaped your strength. She stepped back. The mountain waits. Amara turned and walked out of the forest, clutching the bowl. The air felt lighter as she left. The sun shone again outside the trees. She walked toward the mountains with a new heaviness in her heart. Kato was not just a man who betrayed her. He was something else, someone with secrets deep enough to bring spirits into the world. The savannah stretched wide around her. The mountains grew closer, but so did the danger. She felt it in her bones. As evening neared, she reached the base of the Mountain of Echoes. Mist curled around the stones. The air carried a rhythm, like a distant drum wrapped in wind. Dums, dums, dum. Her heart followed the beat. She looked up at the steep, rocky path. As long as my feet can walk, she whispered, I will climb. She started up the mountain. The higher she climbed, the colder the wind grew. It whipped her shawl around her body. Her hands trembled from the cold. Her breath came in short bursts, but she did not stop. She climbed past rocks shaped like faces, past caves that whispered, past old carvings in the stone, symbols of ancestors long forgotten. The sky turned dark purple. Stars blinked into life. Wolves howled at the foot of the mountain. When she reached the flat ledge near the peak, she collapsed to her knees in exhaustion. The wind roared around her. The mountain hummed with ancient voices. Amara took the clay bowl, dipped 2 fingers into the shimmering paste, and drew a straight line down her forehead. The mountain went silent. The wind froze. Amara stood. A deep voice, older than time, echoed across the mountain. She gasped. The voice came from the air itself. Another voice joined. Then another. Then another. Hundreds of voices spoke together. We will show you the truth. Amara felt her feet lift from the ground. Light exploded before her eyes. Images swept through her mind. Spirits, shadows, the river, the forest, Naledi's fear, the bone, Elder Buru's warnings. And then, Kato, standing before a hidden shrine, holding a bowl of blood, kneeling before a dark figure with glowing eyes. The voices whispered, the sentence you must speak. Amara's heart stopped. She gasped. The truth was too big, too heavy, too dangerous. But the ancestors spoke as one. You must speak it at the wedding. Lightning flashed over the mountain. The truth hit her chest like a drumbeat. And the part of her that was once a quiet, broken wife woke into something powerful, something unstoppable, something chosen. She whispered through shaking lips. So this is what he did. The wind roared. The ancestors answered. And this is what you must reveal. Night fell heavy over the savannah, carrying the weight of ancient whispers and restless spirits as if all the ancestors were gathering around the fire to watch the fate of Nandi, her ex-husband Juma, and the woman who stole their home. The drums from the wedding ground pounded louder now, echoing across the hills like the heartbeat of the land. Flames leapt high in the air, cracking with the hunger of the moment, glowing across faces painted with joy, envy, guilt, and secrets. The people had been waiting for this night, Juma's bold new wedding, the celebration he believed would crown him with respect and erase the shame of his divorce. But instead, shadows clung to every corner of the ceremony ground, crawling through the trees, twisting in the grass, and swirling around the guests like silent watchers. The elders sensed it, the hunters sensed it, even the wind sensed it. And Nandi walked straight into it. She approached through the dust path that led from the village river, moving like someone guided by something older and deeper than anger. Her feet were steady, her back straight, her eyes shining with a calm that was almost unnatural. She carried nothing, no bag, no cane, no threat. But somehow, every warrior standing guard near the wedding felt their spears grow colder in their hands. Whispers trembled through the crowd like leaves shivering in a storm. She came. Why would she come? Is she here to ruin the wedding? Look at her face, that is not the face of a broken woman. That is the face of a storm. Even the bride, Amara, froze where she sat beside Juma, her traditional beads rattling lightly over her chest. She knew Nandi's walking style, steady, deliberate, never rushed. It was the walk of a woman who did not fear anything. Not even betrayal, not even heartbreak. Juma stood halfway, unable to sit still. Sweat already dotted his forehead even though the night wind was cold. His voice cracked when he tried to hide his fear with anger. Why is she here? He muttered. This is my wedding night. The ancestors should bless me, not remind me of the past. But the elders seated near him simply watched Nandi in silence. They did not blink. They did not judge. They only waited. They knew something had been brewing beneath the surface of the young couple's choices, something to do with greed, shame, and the spirits of the land. Nandi reached the circle of guests and paused. Not one person moved. Even the drummers forgot the rhythm, their hands hanging in the air as the last beat faded into the night like a dying bird. Then the village chief rose from his stool, placed his carved walking staff to the ground, and said in a deep, slow voice, Nandi, daughter of Kinda, you walk into a wedding uninvited. Speak your purpose so this night may continue in peace. Nandi's eyes lifted toward the chief, then toward the fire, then toward Juma, and finally toward Amara. Her voice came out soft, calm, and strangely warm. I did not come to break your wedding, she said. I came to end a story. Her words struck harder than a spear. Juma swallowed hard, trying to play the role of the confident groom. You have no story here. You divorced yourself from this home. Go back where you belong. But Nandi did not even look at him when she replied. Instead, she kept her eyes fixed on the flames. Do you think divorcing a woman ends the story? She asked. Do you think walking into another woman's arms resets the past? The wind rose suddenly, swirling dust around her feet, lifting the ends of her cloth as if the ancestors themselves were circling her. You took more than my marriage, she said softly. You took trust, you took dignity, you took the home my mother blessed with her dying breath. A murmur brushed through the crowd. Everyone remembered the old story, how Nandi's mother on her deathbed blessed the union between Nandi and Juma with sacred kola nuts from the forest of spirits. It was considered a powerful blessing, almost unbreakable. That blessing was now broken. But Nandi wasn't finished. She stepped forward, her voice gathering strength. When the divorce papers were signed, I walked away with nothing. I did not fight you for land or cattle or home. I did not argue for money. I left so you could be free with the woman you chose. Her eyes turned to Amara, free to take what you thought would fill you. Amara felt her chest tighten, as if the cloth around her ribs had been pulled too tight. Nandi continued, "I did not punish you with words, I did not seek revenge with actions, but what belongs to me I took back quietly." Juma frowned, confused. He stepped forward slightly. "What do you mean took back? You took nothing." Nandi finally looked him straight in the eyes. "Oh, but I did." Her voice was like a blade made of moonlight, beautiful, sharp, inevitable. "I cancelled all the cards." Gasps burst through the crowd like a wave. Juma's eyes went wide, his chest rising and falling suddenly with panic. Amara clutched her wrists where the new gold bracelets, purchased with Juma's recent spending, felt suddenly heavy and useless. Nandi did not blink. "The bank cards," she said. "The trading card for the cattle market, the grain purchase card, the loan access card, every card with my name or co-signature. Every card paying for this wedding, every card feeding this feast." Silence slammed over the wedding like a falling tree. The chief lifted his head slightly. The elders leaned forward. Even the flames seemed to pause, frozen mid-dance. "You did what?" Juma croaked. Nandi spoke with the calm of the river before sunrise. "I signed everything, I moved everything, I closed everything 3 nights ago." Then she smiled, gentle, tired, but deeply peaceful. "And I came here tonight only to say one thing to you." Juma's heart hammered like a trapped drum. "What one thing?" Nandi turned her head, her earrings catching the firelight. "I warned you." That one sentence fell onto the wedding like a curse from old spirits. Guests murmured violently. Some clutched their mouths, some clutched their pockets. Some looked at Juma with shame, some with pity, some with satisfaction. But the worst reaction came from the wedding treasurer, an elder man carrying a leather pouch filled with ceremonial payment receipts. He burst into the circle, panicked and shaking. "No, no, no, this cannot be," he cried. "The butcher says we still owe half for the meat, the caterers want the remaining balance, the drummers were to be paid after the final dance, the dancers have not been settled." He turned to Juma with desperate eyes. "And the bride price, it was to be finalized tonight, it was on the card." A larger gasp ripped through the crowd. Faces turned to Juma, faces turned to Amara, faces turned to Nandi, who simply stood with her hands at her sides, no anger, no fear, no pride. She was only the truth standing in human form. Juma began to shake, his mouth opened but no words came out. You, Nandi, you cannot do this," he finally shouted. "This is my wedding." Nandi tilted her head slightly. "And your responsibilities are yours, are they not? You said you did not need me, so I released you from everything of mine." Then she looked toward the chief. "I came only to speak the sentence Juma ignored every time I begged him to listen. I warned you. And now the ancestors have judged it enough." The wind blew again, colder, stronger, carrying dust and whispers. The flames rose tall. Almost unnaturally tall. A rumble rolled through the ground as if something ancient had awakened. The elders exchanged tense looks. One elder, Mama Nyaga, the oldest seer of the village, stood slowly, leaning on her staff carved with cowries and bones. Her voice trembled with age but carried the power of old spirits. "Nandi," she said, "did you come to bring ruin or truth?" Nandi bowed her head respectfully. "Only truth. The ruin was already growing long before I arrived here." Mama Nyaga nodded slowly, staring deep into her eyes, reading the spirit inside her. Then she turned to Juma and Amara. "When a man plants greed and betrayal, he should not expect a harvest of peace," she said. "Daughter Nandi has not broken any sacred law tonight." She pointed her staff at Juma. "But you tried to build your new house on the ashes of the old without cleaning them. This wedding is not blessed, not tonight, not like this." Juma's knees weakened. Amara grabbed his arm, terrified. "But what about us?" Amara whispered. "What happens now?" Mama Nyaga looked at her gently. "Child, you tied yourself to a man whose path is not yet clean. When the river is muddy, even the one who drinks from it becomes sick." The bride burst into tears. Juma, desperate, furious, humiliated in front of everyone, turned on Nandi. "You think you win," he shouted. "You think ruining this wedding makes you strong. You are jealous, you came to show power." Nandi finally stepped closer, stopping only a breath away from him. "Juma," she said softly, "the only power I ever wanted was the power to walk away without fear." Then her voice lowered, ancient and tired. And the ancestors gave me that long before you ever left. A hush fell again. Juma stumbled backward, unable to look her in the eye. The crowd parted as Nandi turned away from the fire, from the wedding, from the village, and prepared to walk back into the night. But before she could take her first step, a roar of thunder cracked across the sky, though no clouds had gathered. Sparks shot from the fire, spiraling upward. The drums fell over. The earth seemed to tremble again, just once, like a heartbeat. Mama Nyaga raised her staff. The ancestors have spoken, she declared. This ceremony cannot continue, not until debts are paid, truths are faced, and hearts are cleansed. The wedding was over. The guests scattered in confusion, shame, fear, and shock. The drummers packed quietly, the dancers removed their beads, the cooks closed their pots. Juma stood frozen, unable to move. Amara sank to her knees, covering her face. Mama Nyaga stared at Nandi one last time. You walk with strong spirits behind you, she said. Not many can carry such weight with such calm. Nandi bowed respectfully but said nothing. The chief struck his staff against the ground. This night is finished, he announced. And just like that, the wedding ended in the shadow of one sentence. And Nandi walked back into the darkness, her figure swallowed by moonlight and rising wind, leaving behind a groom without a wedding, a bride without a marriage, and a village whispering the same question. What will Juma do now? Dawn crept slowly over the savannah, brushing gold across the grasses, warming the dark soil, waking the birds that slept in the acacia trees. But this dawn did not rise gently. It rose heavy, as if the spirits of night had not fully left, as if the ancestors waited for something still unfinished. Word of the ruined wedding spread far beyond the village. Hunters whispered it to their dogs, children whispered it into their play songs, elders whispered it to the fire. Even the wind carried it, sliding through the huts and stirring the smoke pots. Juma's wedding fell, the wind said. Amara cried through the night, the dust murmured. Nandi walked away like a woman of spirits, the leaves answered. And as the sun climbed higher, the three lives tied together by betrayal, truth, and silence began to shift, each walking a path the ancestors had been preparing long before the first spark of heartbreak. Nandi's new morning. Nandi moved far from the noise of the village, following the river trail toward the quiet lands where reeds grew tall and fishermen built their huts. Her footsteps were light. Her breath was calm. She felt no trembling inside her chest, no burning in her stomach. What she felt was something she had not felt in many moons. Freedom. For the first time since her mother's passing, she could breathe deeply without fear of who she might disappoint. The weight of Juma's disrespect was gone. The burden of holding a home together alone was gone. The sting of betrayal had burned itself into ash. Only one thing remained, herself. She reached a grassy hill above the river bend, where the wind moved like a soft song, and sat beneath a tall fig tree. Its branches spread wide above her like arms of an old ancestor. Birds hopped among the branches, scattering tiny feathers that drifted around her like blessings. Nandi leaned back against the trunk and closed her eyes. For a moment she let silence hold her. But out of that silence came a whisper, not in her ears but in her spirit. Child, you have done well. Her eyes opened slowly. She didn't look around. She knew the voice. She had heard it in dreams, in memories, in the rustling leaves of certain nights. Her mother's voice. You walked through fire and came out with your spirit unbroken, the whisper continued. Not by shouting, not by fighting, but by knowing your worth. Tears slid down Nandi's cheeks, warm as sunrise. I was afraid, she whispered, but I kept walking. And your fear became your strength, the voice said. Now rise, the world is larger than the life you left behind. The warmth in Nandi's chest grew stronger. She took a long breath and stood, looking out at the river glimmering in the morning sun. She did not know what lay ahead. New work, new people, new journeys, new hopes, but she knew one thing for certain. Her story did not end with Juma. It began after him. Juma's fall. In the center of the village, Juma woke with the worst dawn of his life. His hut smelled of smoke and yesterday's panic. His wedding clothes lay scattered on the floor. His head throbbed from a night without sleep, and his ears still rang with the murmurs of shame. He stepped outside, hoping to find comfort in fresh air, but the moment he appeared, whispers rose around him like swarming insects. There he is. The groom with no weddings. The man who betrayed a blessing. He built a home on lies. Children paused their games to stare at him. Women carrying water pots turned sharply away. Even the goats bleated strangely, as if disturbed by the tension in the air. Juma clenched his jaw and walked through the village, trying to pretend he did not hear anything. But shame is not something one can outrun. It walks behind, beside, and ahead of you. When he reached the elders' circle, Mama Nyaga sat waiting for him, her staff resting on her knees. Her eyes did not soften when she saw him. "You have come," she said simply. Juma bowed, barely able to meet her gaze. "I have come for guidance, Mama." Mama Nyaga narrowed her eyes. "You did not come for guidance when betrayal grew in your hut. You did not come for guidance when you threw away the blessing given by a dying mother. Why now?" Juma swallowed hard, "Because everything has fallen." She nodded once. "Good, only a man who has fallen can see the floor he once walked on blindly." Juma knelt before her. "I loved Amara," he whispered. Mama Nyaga tapped her staff on the ground. "Perhaps, but you did not respect the home you already had. Love without respect is like a drum without skin. It makes no sound." Juma felt the truth strike him like a spear. Mama Nyaga leaned forward. "Your downfall began not when Nandi cancelled the cards," she said, "but when you forgot the heart of the woman who built your first home." Juma felt tears gather in his eyes. "I was foolish." "No," she corrected sharply. "You were proud. Pride makes men blind." She lifted her staff and pointed it toward him. "Now you must repair your path, not for Nandi, not for Amara, for your spirit." "How?" he asked, voice trembling. Mama Nyaga's expression softened just slightly. "By acknowledging your wrongs, by living humbly, by working with your own hands, not leaning on another person's labor or name. The ancestors do not punish forever, but they wait for change." Her voice lowered. "Go, begin again." Juma bowed deeply, tears falling onto the dust. He had lost love, respect, and reputation, but perhaps he could still find wisdom. Amara's dark night. Amara woke inside her aunt's hut, surrounded by woven mats and the smell of medicine herbs. Her face was swollen from crying. Her heart felt like broken pottery, sharp, fragile, scattered in too many pieces. Her aunt, Mama Sefu, sat beside her grinding herbs in a clay bowl. She did not speak at first. She let Amara breathe, let her feel, let her break. Finally, when the grinding slowed, she asked softly, "Child, what do you feel?" Amara closed her eyes. "Shame." Mama Sefu shook her head. "Shame belongs to wrong actions. What did you do that was wrong?" Amara hesitated. "I loved a man who was not truly mine." Mama Sefu sighed. "Then you were foolish but not wicked." Tears spilled again. "Was I punished?" Mama Sefu reached out and wiped Amara's cheek gently. "You were taught," she said, "and lessons can feel like punishment." Amara took a shaky breath. "What should I do now?" "The same thing every woman must do after heartbreak," her aunt answered. "Look inward, grow wiser, walk away from what has burned you." "But where will I go?" Amara whispered. "What life is left for me?" Her aunt smiled sadly. "The one you will build with your own hands, not one borrowed from another woman's ruin." Amara stared at the mats beneath her feet. It was painful advice, but it was the truth. She rose slowly, her heartbeat steadying. "I will leave the village for a while," she said. "Go to the riverlands, help with the fishing huts, learn new work." Mama Sefu nodded proudly. "Good, go where the water runs clean, let it wash away the shadows." Amara exhaled long and deep. She had tried to take someone else's story. Now she would create her own. The last meeting. 3 days later, as the sun lowered over the village and painted the sky orange, something unexpected happened. Nandi, Juma, and Amara met at the edge of the village near the ancient baobab tree, the same place where many years ago elders performed blessings for new marriages. The air was quiet, the wind slow, the ancestors listening. Nandi arrived first, carrying a small woven basket filled with groundnuts. It was a gift for the road, something her mother once taught her to offer when closing a chapter. Amara arrived next, her eyes tired but calmer than before. She stood a few steps away, unsure. Juma came last, walking with the humility of a man who had swallowed all his pride. For a moment the three stood in silence, linked not by love or friendship, but by the lessons of their mistakes. Finally, Nandi spoke. Her voice was steady and peaceful. I came to say goodbye. Amara lowered her head. I came to say sorry. Juma took a slow breath, and I came to say thank you. Nandi's eyebrows lifted slightly. Thank me. Yes, Juma said quietly. For telling me the truth. I did not want to hear it, but I needed to. Amara stepped forward. Nandi, you were the one who lost the most in all this, yet you walked with more dignity than either of us. Nandi smiled sadly. We all lost something, but we also gained something. Juma frowned. What did we gain? Clarity, Nandi answered. A broken truth is better than a beautiful lie. The wind rustled the baobab leaves above them, as if agreeing. They stood together a moment longer, breathing the same air, letting the silence heal the last remaining wounds. Then Nandi handed the basket to Amara. For your journey, she said gently. Amara accepted it with tears in her eyes. Nandi then turned to Juma. You will rise again, she said, but only if you rise with honesty this time. Juma nodded slowly. I will try. Trying is the first step, she replied. And with that, the story between them finally closed, not with anger, not with curses, but with understanding. The moral of the story. As night fell and the moon climbed high, Mama Nayaga told the village children the lesson the ancestors wanted them to remember. Her voice was deep, slow, filled with the rhythm of ancient truth. Children, she said, when respect leaves a home, sorrow enters. When truth is hidden, darkness grows. And when a person forgets their own worth, they become a shadow of themselves. She tapped her staff on the ground. But when a woman knows her value, she becomes powerful. Not by shouting, not by fighting, but by standing tall in her truth. The children nodded, eyes wide, listening to the fire crackle. Mama Nayaga continued. Remember this. A heart that walks away from what is wrong walks toward what is meant. A spirit that chooses dignity will never bow to betrayal. And those who plant lies will one day harvest consequences. She raised her staff toward the moon. This is the way of life, this is the law of the ancestors. And far away on her new path by the river, Nandi felt the wind wrap around her like a blessing, soft, warm, and full of promise. Her story had been painful. Her journey had been lonely. Her heart had been tested. But she rose, and somewhere deep within the land the ancestors whispered. A woman who chooses herself chooses freedom.